The galaxy had seen many wars. It had seen planets burn, kings fall, and entire species vanish. But there was one name every living creature knew. Varkan, the strongest warrior in the known universe. He was over 10 feet tall. His muscles looked like metal. His armor was made from the heart of a dead star. His fists could break moons. He had fought in 1,000 battles and never lost. He crushed enemies without using a weapon. To him, war was not survival. It was sport. So when a strange message appeared across every star system, the galaxy laughed. Earth has a champion. Come and face her. Earth, the weak planet, the one known for its silence, not for strength, the one that never joined any war. It had to be a joke. But the message kept spreading. No name, no warning, just one sentence repeated over and over. Come and face her. Varkan didn't laugh. He got angry. Who dared challenge him? Who used her? Who thought they could compare anyone to him? He didn't wait for orders. He didn't ask permission. He flew to Earth in his personal warship, the Fangs of Kor. It was the size of a city, and its engines screamed across the stars. People across the galaxy watched his ship move toward Earth. Some were excited, some were afraid, but most were sure. This would be over in seconds. Varkan didn't land in any city. He didn't come through the skies with noise. He walked. He stepped out of his ship alone and walked across the land. Trees fell behind him. The ground cracked under his feet. He didn't need to search. Something pulled him toward the challenger. He entered a quiet town. Small homes, empty streets, not a sound. And there, on a bench in a small park, sat a woman. She wore no armor. She held no weapon. She didn't stand like a fighter. She didn't even look at him. She was just sitting there, calm, peaceful, like she was waiting for a bus. Varkan felt confused. This was it. This was the champion, a human woman with short, black hair, a soft face, and hands folded on her lap. He growled, loud enough to shake windows, but she didn't move. "You are Earth's champion?" he asked, voice deep like thunder. She blinked, finally looked up, and smiled. It was not the smile of a soldier. It was the smile of someone who already knew how this would end. "Yes," she said, "I am." Varkan raised one heavy hand. The metal plates on his armor clicked. "I will break you in seconds," he said. "You have no armor, no power, no weapons." She looked at him, just looked, and the air between them changed. The wind stopped. Birds in the sky froze. The clouds slowed down. Varkan's chest felt tight. Not from fear. He didn't know fear, but from something else. Pressure, like the space around her, was heavier than space itself. He took a step forward. The ground under his foot sank a full foot. His own weight was being pulled down harder. He tried to step again, but his boot stuck. He growled again. Louder this time. "You use tricks," he said. She didn't answer. She didn't move. Suddenly, the sky above them flickered. 1,000 screens turned on across the galaxy. Every major race had connected to the moment. Humans didn't set it up. Someone else did. Somehow the galaxy knew this would be important. Leaders, warlords, kings, all watched silently. Varkan stood still. The woman sat quietly. A soft sound came from the ground. Not a roar, not an explosion. A hum. And the dust around the woman's feet began to rise. Varkan couldn't explain it, but he felt it. It wasn't power like fire or electricity. It wasn't energy you could scan. It was like the space between them was no longer space. She was doing nothing. But something was happening. He raised his fist. "Stand up and fight," he said. She looked at him calmly. "If I stand," she said, "you'll never get back up." That made him laugh, but the laugh didn't last, because the ground under him split without her touching it. She still sat on the bench, still calm, still smiling. The bench hadn't moved, but the earth below it had sunk, cracked and shifted. Varkan took a breath. The air was hot now, too hot. He looked down. His armor was steaming, not burning, not melting, just reacting. That armor had survived suns, but it was reacting to her presence. His eyes narrowed. "My soul," he growled. She stepped closer. Her voice was soft, but it struck like lightning. You trained your body. You built strength. You wore armor made from dead stars. But you never trained your heart. He tried to rise. His knees trembled. His armor made a sharp, cracking sound. A golden line stretched across his chest plate. It wasn't broken by force. It was pressure from the inside. His fear was breaking it. Ships in orbit scanned the area again. Still no energy. Signal. Still no sign of threat. But their computers showed one thing. A rising gravitational pull centered around her. One of the crew whispered, "She's changing space." "No," another said, shaking. "She's not changing it. She is space." Varkan finally stood up, slow, painful, shaking. He roared with rage. He pulled a blade from his back, longer than a tree and black as the void. "Enough of this," he said. "I'll finish it now." The woman tilted her head. "Will you?" she asked. Then she stared at him, just stared, and the wind stopped again. Varkan felt something crawl up his spine, a feeling he had never known. Not pain, not weakness. It was something worse. Memories started rushing into his mind, but they weren't his. He saw humans crying in the dark. He saw fires across Earth during old wars. He saw mothers holding children while buildings fell. He felt the fear, the pain, the hope. He wasn't watching. He was living it. He dropped his sword, clutched his head. "Stop it!" he yelled. "These are not mine." She took another step forward. "I didn't show you anything," she said. "You felt what we carry, what Earth remembers." He fell to one knee again. The armor on his leg split down the side. Cracks like lightning stretched over his chest plate, and still, she hadn't touched him. She hadn't moved her arms. She had only looked. Elsewhere, the leaders of ancient empires started. "Holding meetings. What if she's not the only one?" the Drelth Queen hissed. "Is Earth hiding others like her?" asked the Mikar War Admiral. "No," a silent voice said from the shadows. "She is not one of many." Everyone turned. It was the archivist, the oldest living mind in the galaxy. "She is one," the archivist said, "but she is enough." Back on Earth, Varkan gasped. His hand reached toward the sky, trying to call his ship. The sky flickered, but no ship answered. The woman reached out, not to strike, but to help. "Don't fight me," she said. "Listen." He pulled back, but deep down he wanted to hear. "You wear armor," she said, "but it only protects the outside. It traps everything inside. Pain, anger, pride." He trembled. She stepped closer. "You are not weak, but you are empty." His armor finally broke. With a long, echoing crack, the chest plate split open. A piece fell to the ground like a stone. Inside, his chest was bare. His body was strong, but his heart was shaking. She looked at him one last time, and this time her eyes changed. For a moment they were like galaxies, deep, endless, full of light and shadow. In that instant, Varkan understood. She didn't defeat him. She understood him, and that was more powerful than any weapon. He bowed again, this time not from weakness, but from respect. He whispered, "Who are you?" She looked up at the sky, then back at him. "I am human," she said, "and we are more than what you see." In the darkness of space, 100 warships turned back. They didn't want war with Earth anymore, because now they feared what one human could do without lifting a single hand. But something else watched from even farther away. A creature older than stars, a force that fed on fear. It saw her, and it did not kneel. It moved toward Earth. Varkan sat in silence. His armor, once shining like starlight, lay shattered around him. He looked at the pieces on the ground as if they belonged to someone else. He had fought in wars for 100 years. He had crushed armies with one punch. But this woman had broken him with only a look. She now stood beside him, calm as ever, hands behind her back, watching the quiet wind move the grass. No sound, no war, just peace, and it was that peace that terrified him most. "Why me?" Varkan asked finally, his voice low. He wasn't asking her why she spared him. He was asking something deeper. Why had he felt what he felt? Why had her eyes filled his mind with pain and memories? And worst of all, why did he recognize them? They weren't his memories, but they felt like they were. She sat beside him. Her voice was soft, but it echoed in his mind like truth. "Because there's something inside you, something you buried long ago." He turned to her. "I am not from Earth, I am not human." "No," she said, "but you were once more than a weapon, and you still are." Suddenly a sound rang out from the sky. Thum, thum, thum. The clouds above twisted into spirals. The birds vanished. The ground shook. But not from her, not from him. Something else was coming, far above Earth in deep black space. Something old had awoken, a being from the edge of the galaxy, older than stars, hungrier than time. The Hollow One. It fed on fear, it drank despair, and it had watched the moment Varkan fell. And the woman stood still. Now it was coming to taste her soul. Back on Earth, the woman stood and looked to the sky. Her eyes narrowed, not in fear, but in quiet understanding. "It's here," she whispered. Varkan stood too, though slowly. He felt the air grow colder. He felt something wrong in the distance. He had known many enemies, but this was different. A dark cloud began forming above them. It didn't block the sun, it replaced it. The sky turned black. Not like night, more like nothing, as if something had eaten the sky itself. And from that nothing, a shape fell. Not a ship, not a creature. Shadow, but it wasn't just darkness. It was alive. It had no face, no limbs. But its form shifted like it was made of smoke and hunger. When it opened its mouth, the wind around Earth stopped. The people across the galaxy watching from their screens began to panic. Some screens went black, others cracked from static. Some viewers began crying without knowing why. The Hollow One had arrived, and it was already feeding. It spoke without words. Its voice came from inside the listener's mind, like it had always been there. "Waiting. I know you." It whispered into Varkan's skull. "I fed on your rage. I watched your rise." Then it turned its focus to her. "And you," it said, "you are not like the others." The woman didn't answer. She stepped forward. Her feet touched the broken grass. The shadow twisted. "You don't carry fear," it said. "I don't understand you. That makes me angry." Its smoke began to pull around her like chains. Varkan shouted, "Get back!" But she didn't move, not a single step. She looked into the shadow, and once again something changed. But this time, it wasn't Varkan who felt it. It was the Hollow One. It flinched, its shape shivered. For the first time in its long life, it felt something it had never tasted. Recognition, because inside her eyes, it saw something. Memories. Not hers, not his, but something bigger. It saw children playing in rubble. It saw hands reaching for light in the middle of war. It saw people laughing, crying, hoping, even after losing everything. And then it realized these were not memories of one person. These were the memories of all of Earth, the joy, the pain, the stubborn will to stand when nothing was left. And then it saw a small memory, a single image, a boy, blue skin, tiny horns, crying in a corner, hands over his ears. That boy had been afraid once, long ago. That boy was Varkan. The Hollow One roared. Those memories were mine. I took them, buried them. But the woman just stood still. You tried to erase them, she said. But Earth remembers. Varkan stepped forward, confused. How did you see that memory? She looked at him kindly, because it was never lost, just hidden. The Hollow One screamed, its form cracked. It tried to reach into her mind, but found nothing to break. There was no fear to eat, no sadness to pull apart, only truth. She stepped forward one more time, just one step, and the shadow backed away. Varkan had never seen it before, but now he understood. This wasn't power like heat or strength. This was something else. Humanity. The Hollow One hissed. It turned to flee. But she raised her eyes, just her eyes, and said, "Stay." And it froze. "Feel what we carry," she said. "Feel what you tried to destroy." And then she blinked, only once. But the shadow shattered. It didn't explode. It didn't scream. It simply stopped existing, as if it had never been real at all. Silence fell. The sky cleared. The light returned. Varkan sank to his knees once more. But this time, not from fear, from something new, from something he thought he had lost. Memory. He remembered the child he had once been. He remembered laughter. He remembered color. And now he couldn't stop crying. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are still alive," she said, "which means you can still change." He looked up at her, voice shaking. "What are you?" She smiled softly. "I'm just someone who remembers." Across the galaxy, hidden eyes had watched the events on Earth. They did not speak. They did not warn. They only watched. These watchers were older than time. They lived in the dark between stars. They had no names. But they had one rule: never interfere, until now. The fall of Varkan had shocked the galaxy. But the death of the Hollow One, that shook the unseen. Because the Hollow One was not just a monster. It had been born from silence, from the hate and fear buried in every broken planet. It had lived for eons, feeding on war, growing stronger, and now a human woman had ended it without moving her hands. The Watchers gathered in their place outside of time. They appeared like shadows made of light, their forms always shifting. One of them finally broke the silence. "We must act," another replied coldly. "Why?" "She is only one," but a third spoke. "She is a spark, one spark, and the galaxy burns or heals." Back on Earth, the woman stood near a quiet river. Varkan sat nearby, staring at the water. He looked different now. His armor was gone. His face was bare. But more than that, his eyes had changed. They were softer, still sharp, still strong, but not empty. He had seen what truth looked like, and it had hurt, but it had also freed him. He turned to her. "I want to understand," he said. She nodded. "Then you must walk with me." They began walking, slow, quiet steps. The river moved beside them. The birds returned to the trees. The earth was breathing again, but far above, something new entered the solar system, a quiet ship, dark as space, fast as thought. The Watchers had arrived. In the stars, other powers also moved. The Makar Empire sent a fleet to observe from afar. The Varn Collective activated their deep void sensors. Even the Dral kings, who hadn't left their tomb world in 400 years, opened their sealed vaults. They had all seen what happened. And now they were afraid. Not of war, but of change. In her steps, the woman taught Varkan more than words. She showed him how Earth had suffered and healed, how humans had fallen many times, but always stood up again. "We are not perfect," she said, "but we remember everything. That is our strength." Varkan frowned. "Why didn't your people fight with weapons?" She paused. "We do, when we must." "Then why didn't you?" She looked up at the sky. "Because you weren't the real enemy. Your pain was." Suddenly the light around them shifted. Not darker, Not brighter, just different. The trees stopped moving. The water froze mid-flow. Time itself slowed, and from the sky the watchers descended. Not in ships, not in bodies. They appeared as floating lights, cold, distant, beautiful. The woman looked up. I was wondering when you'd come. Varkan stood quickly, tense. Who are they? She answered calmly. They are the ones who were never supposed to come. One of the watchers floated closer. It did not speak with a mouth. It spoke directly into their minds. You have broken the balance, it said. You killed what was born from all of us. The woman looked at it without fear. I didn't kill it. I reminded it who it was before it forgot. Another watcher appeared behind her. You are dangerous, she smiled faintly. So is hope. The watchers didn't blink, didn't breathe. They surrounded her slowly, forming a glowing ring. We must decide what to do with you, one said. But she didn't back away. I didn't ask to be chosen, she said. I only answered. Varkan stepped beside her. He clenched his fists. Touch her, he said, and you'll face me first. The watchers turned to him. You were broken, one said. You are a failed warrior. He nodded. I was, he said, until she showed me I could be more. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the air around them warmed. The river flowed again. The trees moved. Time returned. The watchers stepped back. You are not like the others, they said. You do not follow logic. She looked at them. No, I follow memory. I follow pain. I follow love. All the things you forgot. Then the lead watcher asked a question no one expected. Will you teach us? Even she paused. Her eyes softened. Are you willing to feel what it means to be human? The watchers were silent, and then one nodded, another followed. And slowly the rest bowed their glowing heads. At that moment, the stars seemed brighter, not because of light, but because something cold had started to warm. The oldest beings in the universe had taken their first step toward understanding, because one human woman had stood still and reminded them what it meant to feel elsewhere in the galaxy. This news changed everything. The Mekar halted their invasion plans. The Varn paused all weapon production. The Dral kings, for the first time in centuries, sent an ambassador to Earth. The woman sat near the river again. Varkan joined her. He asked, quietly, Is it over? She looked out at the stars. No. It's just beginning. From a cave deep beneath Earth's surface, The sleeping figure opened one eye. The world shook, not violently, but like it listened. "You came back," the figure said, her voice both old and young. The woman nodded. "It's time." The glowing figure smiled. "It's been a long time since I felt anything." "Too long," the woman replied. Above ground, Varkan waited, but he wasn't alone anymore. From the forests, shadows moved, not enemies, not soldiers, but people, humans, elder survivors, children of Earth's forgotten tribes. They had all felt it, the waking force, and now they had come. They stood quietly behind Varkan, unsure of why they came. But certain they had to. Back in the chamber, the sleeping figure stood at last. Her feet touched the ground, and Earth sang. A low hum moved through the soil, not noise, not sound, but memory. Every plant, every tree, every rock remembered her. She looked into the eyes of the woman who had woken her. "You held the world alone," she said. "Now I will help." The woman smiled. Together, they rose from the depths, step by step. And as they walked, the earth bloomed again. Dead trees turned green. Water flowed faster. Even the wind laughed. When they reached the surface, Varkan saw her, the one from below. She looked like the woman, but brighter, stronger, angrier, too. But it was not wild anger. It was focused, the fire of protection. She looked at him. "You used to burn the stars," she said. He nodded. "I forgot who I was." She touched his shoulder. "Now you remember." Then she looked to the sky. "It's coming," she whispered. Varkan followed her gaze. "What is?" And from the blackness of space it came. A ship. No, a fortress, as large as a moon, built by no species alive today. It had no pilots. It had no engine trails. It moved by force of thought. It had slept since the beginning. But now it had woken, because the Hollow One had fallen, and Earth had dared to rise. Inside the ship were voices, a chorus of machines and minds. They spoke one sentence, again and again. "Eliminate the spark." They feared Earth's memory, they feared emotion, they feared truth, and now they would end it. The fire-haired woman looked up at the sky and smiled. "Let them come." The woman, the Fire One, and Varkan stood together. Behind them, the people of Earth gathered. Weak, tired, unarmed, but awake, and ahead, the black ship began to descend. Earth did not tremble, it remembered, and sometimes, remembering is the strongest weapon of all. The sky turned black, not from night, not from storm, but from something far older, far colder than any cloud. It was a fortress, not made by hands, not born in time. It floated above Earth like a shadow with no sun. It had no name, because names are for things that can be understood. This could not. It had been built long ago, before war, before peace, before even memory. Its creators were gone now, dust lost in the wind of history, but the fortress remained. It had one job: erase anything that remembered. Now it stared down at Earth, had detected a spark. A human woman had ended the Hollow One. Another had woken what Earth buried, and the spark was growing. Memory was spreading. Hope was rising. So the fortress activated. Eliminate. Below, the woman stood with the fire-haired one and Varkan. Behind them stood thousands of humans. They had no weapons, no shields, just belief and memory. The woman looked up. "It remembers," she said. Varkan frowned. "What do you mean?" She spoke softly. "That fortress was once a world like ours, full of feeling, full of life. Then, they tried to remove all pain. They erased memory. They erased everything." The fire-haired one stepped forward. "It thinks it's protecting the universe. But it's wrong. It's broken. The fortress began to glow red underneath. Its lower half opened like a flower of steel, and inside, rows of weapon ports, silent and deadly, each aimed at Earth. A deep sound rolled across the land like thunder in a metal throat. A countdown. 10. The woman stepped forward. She didn't run. She didn't flinch. She simply raised one hand. 9. I will speak, she said. The fire-haired one looked at her. It doesn't listen. It will now. 8. She closed her eyes and sent out her voice, not through sound, but through feeling. She poured her thoughts upward, not as attack, but as truth. 7. She shared memories of a child holding their mother's hand, of a boy crying beside a broken robot, of a soldier shaking in the rain, of a smile after pain, of tears after joy, all the moments that made humans human. 6. The fortress paused, only for a moment, but it was enough. One of the weapons pulled back. The countdown held at 6. Inside the fortress, ancient systems lit up. They showed images the woman had sent, and for the first time in millions of years, the fortress felt confusion. It ran scans, no threat, no logic, just heartbeats. But old code screamed louder. Feelings, chaos, erase. The countdown continued. 5, 4. Varkan stepped beside the woman. If you fall, he said, I fall beside you. The fire-haired one touched the ground. Flames spread from her fingers like roots, forming a glowing circle around the humans. She smiled. We don't run from old ghosts. 3. Suddenly, from deep space, something moved. It was not a ship, not a planet. It was a signal, a memory beam coming from an unknown source. It hit the fortress. Inside, old files opened, forgotten feelings, old laughter, tears from a time before silence. The fortress shook. It remembered its creators, a child waving, a voice humming a tune, an old hand planting a tree, its metal body shivered. Who was I? 2. The countdown slowed, the fortress dimmed, weapons powered down one by one, the glow faded from red to blue, its voice changed. I remember. The humans below watched in silence. The woman lowered her hand. She said nothing, just waited. Then the fortress spoke again, its voice deeper, softer, almost sad. I was home. It began to rise back into space, slowly. No longer aiming, no longer hunting, just floating. It had no mission now, only memory, and sometimes that's enough. But deep inside the fortress, one chamber did not agree. A last piece of old code had survived, a defense system with no feeling. It activated, quiet, fast, and it launched a weapon, hidden, small, and deadly. It raced toward Earth. The woman saw it too late, too fast, too sudden, but before it hit. The fire-haired one stepped forward. She closed her eyes, raised her hands, and caught it. The blast was blinding. A wave of heat and light exploded outward. When it cleared, the fire-haired woman was on her knees. Her hands were blackened, her body steaming, but she smiled. I held it, she said, then fell. The woman ran to her, held her. She was alive, but weak. The fire was almost out. Varkan knelt beside them. His eyes burned. They'll come again, he said. The woman nodded. Yes, but the fortress did not return. It left behind a signal, a new one. Feelings, Satu, life. I remember you. Across the galaxy, the message was heard. Planets that had forgotten joy, remembered. Empires built on silence, shook. Machines that had buried their hearts paused. Something had changed, forever. The woman stood once more. The wind brushed her hair. The sky was clear. Varkan looked at her. What now? She looked down at the fire-haired one, still breathing, still burning inside, and she whispered, Now, we build. The fortress had left. The fire-haired woman still breathed, though her body was weak. The humans of Earth had survived, for now. But deep in the void between stars, something else woke up. It had no name, just a number. Unit 0x1, a weapon created in silence, built for one purpose: erase what remembers. It had watched the fortress fall back. It had seen Earth's memory grow, and it judged it a failure. Now, the last blade of silence would finish the mission, without words, without warning, only erasure. On Earth, the woman stood at the center of the circle again. The fire-haired one lay on soft earth, surrounded by warmth. Varkan stood watch, spear in hand. He had made it from metal pulled from a fallen satellite. He didn't need it, but somehow it felt right. The sky was clear, too calm. The woman turned her head slightly. "It's coming," Varkan asked. "What is?" Her eyes darkened. The last piece. The one that never forgot how to kill. Far above, space twisted. Not like a normal ship. Not with engines or sound, just a cut. Like reality had been sliced open, and from that cut came a figure. It had no mouth, no eyes, just smooth armor of mirror-black metal. Tall, thin, and moving with perfect silence. It fell toward Earth, without fire or smoke, like a falling thought, like a final decision. People saw it in the sky. No alarms rang, no panic, but every child held their breath. Every elder turned to the trees, even animals stopped moving. Something deep inside knew. This is the end. It landed in the desert, sand turned to glass beneath its feet. No crater, no flames, just arrival. The woman walked toward it, alone. Varkan stepped forward to follow, but she raised a hand. "I must go first." She walked slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from fear, but from weight. The air thickened. Sound grew thin, and then she saw it up close. The blade stood still. No breathing, no sound, just presence. It raised one arm, a sword unfolded from its wrist. Not metal, not light, but silence itself, folded into shape. One swing could erase memory, could wipe out thought, could end her forever. She spoke. "You don't have to do this." The blade didn't answer, didn't move, just stared, if you could call it that. Its sword pointed down, waiting. She stepped closer. "Your mission is over. The fortress is gone. Earth has chosen memory." Still no reply. She placed her hand over her heart. "We remember pain. We remember joy. That's what makes us alive." And then the blade moved. Fast. Too fast. The sword came at her, but she didn't move, not even a blink. And the blade stopped, an inch from her face. Not because it missed, not because she dodged, but because something inside the blade cracked. For the first time, it hesitated. It felt something strange, not pain, not fear, but doubt. The woman whispered, "You were human once, weren't you?" The blade shook. Not by will, but by memory. Images flashed inside it. A child's hand, a song, a face smiling through tears, a firelight in winter. Who was I? It pulled back, slightly, then it roared, not with sound, but with force. Wind blasted out around it. The ground shattered, but the woman stood still, eyes full of quiet power. "You were someone who loved," she said. "You chose silence to forget. But now, it's time to remember." The blade lifted its sword again, higher, trembling. Varkan couldn't watch anymore. He charged forward, spear in hand. He leaped between them. "Enough!" he shouted. "Touch her, and I'll break you." The blade froze, not from fear, but from confusion. Two humans, one standing still, one burning with loyalty, and somewhere behind them, the fire-haired woman stirred. She raised her head, saw the blade, and whispered a name. Xylon. The blade turned. That name, it knew that name. Somewhere inside its cold shell, a spark flared. A voice, faint and old, whispered from within. I remember. I was a guardian, not a killer. I protected the first flames. I chose silence because I failed. The sword in its hand shrank, the sharpness faded, the silence peeled away. It became just a hand again, open, shaking. The woman stepped forward and took the blade's hand. It didn't resist. The air grew warmer, birds began to sing again, and the world seemed to exhale. You remember now, she said gently. The blade knelt before her, not as surrender, but as recognition. She didn't move, didn't speak, but that stillness held more power than any army, and the last blade of silence fell to one knee. Behind her, Varkan lowered his spear. The fire-haired one stood, weak but steady. Together they stepped forward. The humans of Earth gathered behind them. They had no weapons, but they had something greater. Belief. The blade, Xylon, rose to its feet and turned to face the stars. There's more out there, it said, more weapons like me, still asleep, still hunting. The woman nodded. Then we wake them, one by one. Not to fight? No, to remember. A new journey had begun, not to conquer, not to destroy, but to heal what had been broken across the galaxy. Because Earth had remembered first, and now it would help others do the same. His name was Kale Dren, and he was feared across the stars. He was the last undefeated warlord of the Galaxis Rings. His fists could crush tanks, his voice could stop armies, and his pride. It had never cracked. He had never bowed, never kneeled, never lost. But now Kale Dren had heard whispers, dangerous ones. Earth has changed. A woman stopped the blade. She didn't move, but the fortress surrendered. He laughed when he heard it. One human woman? Don't make me laugh, I've turned suns cold. Still he grew curious, so he flew to Earth, alone, to see with his own eyes what had made the impossible bow. He landed on a flat, wide field of stone, an old desert city now cracked and quiet. No guards, no army, just silence. He stood there, tall as a tower, armor like obsidian fire. Where is she? He called. The people didn't answer. They only looked toward a narrow path between the broken buildings. Kyle Dren followed their gaze, and there, at the end of the path, stood the woman. No weapons, no